Welcome back to another episode of the Breadwinner Podcast. I'm your host, Caroline, and I'm here with a guest today. Christa Hanna submitted an application to be a guest. And as soon as I saw that she wanted to talk specifically about ADHD, I was like, yes, please, let's have this conversation. I'm so excited about this. So, you're going to be talking about your journey as a wife, as a mom, as a micro bakery owner, with and without that diagnosis of ADHD, and throwing in some burnout in there. This is going to be so good. I'm so excited. Christa, I can't wait to hear from you and learn kind of more about your experience. Will you just start by introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about your micro bakery and what brought you here.
Sure. So thanks for having me, Caroline. I own a micro bakery in Canada called Burnt Toast Bakery. And I'm going to go back to the beginning because everything just goes back to the beginning. I was one of millions of COVID bakers who decided to take on trying to make bread, which led to just me making it more and more for friends and family. And it became like a tangible way of showing them I loved them until so many people were like, you need to be selling this. But I don't know. At that point, I didn't feel like I was worthy of accepting money for something like that. And I was in denial about it, really, because when I thought about it, I was like, if I take money for it and it becomes a job, then I'm not going to like it anymore. So then I just put it off and put it off until finally somebody actually said, I'm giving you money, make me a loaf. And something in my brain switched that day. And I was just like, oh, somebody thinks this is valuable, like in a tangible way, not just by a hug or a thank you. It was like, I don't know, it was a weird switch in my brain. And so that's where the rabbit hole started. And yeah, it just snowballed into my business, which at the time, if I could have done things differently, I would have. But at the time, it just was what it was and happened how it happened. And then I had to clean up my mess afterward.
I love that though. It's your story.
It's true. And
That
surprisingly, my husband and I are still married.
Oh, you're probably stronger for it. And I think we're going to hear a
100%.
little bit about that.
Yeah.
So that just opens up that question that I have for you. What would you change? Let's just start there.
Sure. When I change, I think if I could have changed things, and if I knew then what I know now, I would have stopped and I would have actually done the research first. And I would have the expression like mise en place, like where you're like getting all your ingredients together and everything. You're setting the stage for baking kind of thing, and you have everything in its place. I would have done that for my business. And I would have even potentially taken a course or like all of that. And because I didn't, it just everything snowballed. So it was like, oh, I guess if I'm going to change my creative Instagram page, then I need to change it to the name that I'm going to name my bakery. And so then I went down that hole and burnt my toast. And I was like, oh, that's catchy. And all of my friends and family agreed. And so then that's where the name came from. Then I was like, my sister, she works for our town and you're going to get a business license, right? And I was like, oh, I guess I need that. And so just going through the whole like exploring and discovering what I needed to do as a business. And then I just did it. I knew it. My husband was like, you didn't talk to me about anything. Like, this wasn't like hey, let's talk about what this could look like in our lives and how we're going to manage this. It just became what it was and took over our lives essentially. And yeah, and I've never been a business owner, never wanted to be. I didn't know what being an entrepreneur was like. So now when I talk to seasoned ones, they're like, yeah, for the first year, it's going to take over your life and you need to be prepared to not spend as much time with your family and really pour everything you have into this to get it going. And so in hindsight, if I would have known that and what that meant, I probably either wouldn't have started or it just would have looked very different. I would have gone a lot slower.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that experience is not just you. I think
No,
so many of us
it's
have
not.
just jumped in
Mhm.
totally blind, just figured things out as we go and realizing that this is a much bigger thing than we thought it would be. What
Yeah.
are some of the things that just caught you by surprise? Was it the baking itself? Was it the managing a business? Or what did that look like?
Oh, geez, everything. Because before this, I had made like two loaves at a time, right? And so then I had to figure out how to make more loaves at a time. And so I was basically relearning how to bake all at the same time as doing my business. And and then also like discovering social media and how that would help me or not help me.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, like it's been a whirlwind of so many different things and just learning how to grow my business at the same time and like what actually helps and what doesn't. And some of those things I was like, oh, that was really smart what I did. And other things were like, oh, that was a huge waste of my time. Yeah, like going around to different businesses around town and just giving out like little mini loaves of bread and introducing myself. That was huge as I like entered this world of small businesses in our town. So that's really cool. And then just getting my name out there. So it's funny because now I'm not so huge on the social media thing. Like I post stuff for my customers, like people who want to buy my
Mhm.
bread. I make sure that they see my posts. Otherwise, I don't do anything creative unless I want to. And yeah, at the beginning though, that was what got me started actually was like an influencer tried my bread and
Okay.
then they had 10,000 followers. So then that went like locally viral. And so then because of social media, I actually was able to get customers. But from there, it's been basically on my own.
Wow. So I'm putting together the whole picture. Ta we just jumped right in. But when did you start your bakery?
Oh, yes. So I started my bakery in March of 2021.
Okay.
Two, sorry, 2022. So this is my third year. I just had my like
Okay.
3 year anniversary. Hmm.
Congratulations.
Thank
So
you.
you have a lot of reps under your belt now, but it sounds like
Yeah.
you said it just went from gifting to one person wanting to buy and realizing that this thing maybe had legs and then you just threw yourself in fully and tried to learn every single thing all at once. Is that kind of what
Yeah.
happened?
Yep.
I loved it. I love it. I relate so much, and I think so many listeners probably too. What are some of the like a couple of moments maybe that pop into mind in the very
Yeah.
beginning that were just felt like a crisis or just felt really maybe the biggest learning moments in the very beginning?
Oh, I, oh, geez. I mean, everything was a learning moment from just learning how to schedule myself and figure
Mm,
out timing of everything. The whole ADHD thing, but I was very big into just basically just playing it by ear and doing it that way. And it felt too stressful to actually do the legwork to prepare.
mhm,
And because of that, I spent way too much time doing things that took too much time. I didn't spend barely any time with my family. The business cost more than I was making.
mhm,
And especially doing markets, I had no idea how busy that would make me and how grouchy I would be. So that was the biggest thing is that I'd be trying to make bread, but then I was doing it while my kids were home. And then they would be interrupting me or fighting or something, and it would trigger me. And I would just go from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. And yeah, it just ended up, my family was miserable while I was
mm,
trying to do this thing. And I felt like they didn't appreciate it. And I didn't feel like my husband was being supportive. But now when I look back, I'm like, oh, my poor family. Oh no. So dealing with, yeah, recipes going wrong, my family just not being there for anyone. just my business taking over the family instead of like fitting my business into our family life. There's been way too many times to count where I had to pull back and then figure that out again. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
I love your honesty because I think probably so many people really do relate that sometimes when you're in it, you don't know what boundaries you need.
Yeah.
And you're already so deep in it that it's hard to see the forest for the trees and step back to protect that family rhythms and safety. I'm excited to kind of hear this journey because you're 3 years in and you're still in it. So something happened where you turned it around and learned. So I'm excited. I'm just excited. I'm coming in with really strong ADHD energy right now. Your application resonated and got me excited because I was diagnosed with ADHD just a few months ago. And
Amazing.
the inattentive type rather than the hyperactive type, but it was really validating for me to realize that, oh, my brain is not broken. Like I've just been spending 35 years trying to wrangle it and make it function in a way that it doesn't want to function. So it's really freeing and validating, but also made so many challenges make sense. So I want to hear more about your journey because were you started your bakery before having that kind of clarity, those answers. Tell me a little bit about experience and then maybe how your diagnosis changed the way that you saw your work.
Sure. So, welcome to the club, by the way.
Thanks.
I feel like it's way more common, especially around bakers and musicians, because I was a musician before COVID, and just seeing how, yeah, and that's different in women too. But it's all like the creative people who come together and do end up doing like a lot of the same things.
Yeah,
And
there's
yeah, and so I wrote down a definition of ADHD for people who are unaware because it is, you grow up and you hear ADHD and you just automatically think hyperactive person. So many girls and women are not diagnosed because they are inattentive, like myself, and actually, even like my oldest son. So nobody thought that he was ADHD because he wasn't hyperactive. And that's just so sad that the research wasn't there at the time and we couldn't put a finger on, okay, what's wrong with me then if I have ADHD? So simply put, oh, and I should just say that I am not a professional and all of my experiences are anecdotal, but I am officially diagnosed by a psychologist. But yeah, ADHD is like basically a lack of dopamine and norepinephrine, which help with the brain's executive function, which basically means that we lack motivational energy that we need to function in a sustainable way. Right. So we wake up in the morning and we have this much motivational energy. And then something happens, like our kids fight, or something triggers us, and we go from this to this within 2 seconds. And then so in my case, I couldn't regulate my emotions. I couldn't like focus on anything. And and so because of that, I was always basically dopamine mining. So that would look like I got an order or I had somebody message me or I had like all of these things and it was really hard for me to say no. Right. So then I'm taking on special orders. I'm taking on like basically anything that people would throw at me. So I was like, oh, this feels so good. Oh, I feel so loved. And so that kind of fed into it. And so you get a little more energy throughout the day because of that. But then again, because we're lacking in all of that, it just goes like this so quickly without meds. And some people can learn how to deal with their ADHD without meds. I feel like it's not realistic when you have 3 children and a business. I think people can do it, but it would just be a lot harder. It means a lot more like meditating and exercising and eating right,
yeah.
which also I need meds to be able to do that.
Right.
So, oh, yeah, I So doing my business before I had ADHD, it was that snowball effect, right? I forget, where do
Mhm.
you live? Do you have snow? Do you
I
know what snowballing really is? Does that
Oh,
make
I
sense
grew
to
up in
you?
Colorado. I live in
Oh,
Texas
okay, perfect.
now, but Texas isn't home. Colorado is. But yes, 100%.
Nice. Yeah, my sister lives in Colorado Springs. Yeah. So yeah, that effect of you start with this thing and then it just rolls down the hill and adds to itself. Yeah, having ADHD but not knowing it just meant a lot of I would see things online and think I could do that, right? Or somebody would give me an idea and I'd be like, "Oh yeah." So anything that sparked my creative brain and anything that like gave me joy, I was like, "Oh, I totally want to learn how to do that or I want to do this or I want." And so and that at one point I think I had 18 things on my menu. And around me, everyone who did not have ADHD was like, you just need to pick the things you're really good at and just stick with those. And I was like, that sounds lame. I'm like, but
But of
everybody
all of
wants all
these,
these things.
yeah.
And then I had one week in particular where I think people had ordered almost like one of everything. And that's when I realized, oh crap, this is not going to work. This
Mhm.
is way too much. And so then I kept scaling back and kept scaling back and also trying to figure out how to process orders. That alone was so hard at the beginning. And my husband is like a web developer. He could have easily made me a website, but I was going to have to wait a very long time. And so when I discovered Square, I was like, oh, I can make a website for free and I can take orders on this. And then I see in the States, everybody's got Hot Plate and whatever. And I was just like, that's not available here. That sucks. And
Mhm.
so, like, that whole journey of trying to figure out how to take orders and what to do. And at that point, I would get so many things messed up and wrong. And I was also taking different sizes of bread and different shapes. Like, I was like, you can get this in a large sandwich loaf or a small sandwich loaf or just an artisan loaf. Like, it was ridiculous the kinds of things that I was allowing. So it really just looked like a big plate of spaghetti, which
Mhm.
is a lot of our brains anyway. But that was my business and that was me managing my business. And so that was really difficult. And then seeing, I call them breadfluencers. So,
Mhm.
all our bread friends who also have micro bakeries, but then watching so many of them seem like they had it all together and watching their equipment that they had and how, oh, I'm just baking like 100 loaves. I was just like, excuse me? I'm exhausted after 15. Like, how do
Mhm.
people get to that point? But so that was basically like what I was trying to get to was getting to this point where I was going to be making this many loaves and doing it just like everyone else.
Mhm.
Um, Meanwhile, my family is super stressed out. I'm super stressed out. My husband's like, this is supposed to be like a hobby. He's like,
Mhm.
we have different priorities in our life and we don't need you to make any extra money and you're putting so much pressure on yourself and this is just taking over our lives, which I instantly like. Have you heard of RSD?
No.
So many people with ADHD have RSD. It's rejection rejection sensitivity dysphoria. So if your greatest fear is abandonment, you constantly feel
Mhm.
rejected, and that is me. And when he
Mhm.
would tell me things like this, and not that he would say it in a tactful way, I would just process it as you're not supporting me. You want to shut me down. You don't want
Yeah.
me to do this. And then it just spiraled me into this like rebellion almost. So I will do
Yeah.
this. And so it just became such an unsustainable mess. I found out I had ADHD basically by accident. We went to a seminar for our oldest, just what ADHD really was, because we didn't really know. We're just like, oh yeah, he has it. But we didn't, because we didn't understand the meds and what they did. So we went to this thing, and the whole time I was sitting there like, that's why my life is so hard. So it's like this validating thing of, holy crap, that's me. And then learning about the meds and how they're basically just hormone replacements, like just function. and calm your brain down and help you to think and process and prepare and
Yeah.
all of those things. And hopefully get to a point where you can actually regulate your emotions. And so I right away ended up getting an appointment with my psychologist and got an official diagnosis, which I don't like, depending on where you live, sometimes there's help for people like us. So I ended up joining this entrepreneur business thing for free, which introduced me to different programs that I could apply for. So then I ended up getting business coaching for free. I ended up like getting resources to help me with my website and social media and figuring all that stuff out for free. And it was amazing. Like I could not have pivoted to this point without all of that. And so I was so thankful when I was diagnosed and I started taking meds that I was able to get all of this help. Yeah. Besides that, yeah, the only way that I knew how to function was like the first summer that I started my business, I worked through it and realized how not good that was. And I was even
Mm-hmm.
doing markets and everything, and it was a mess. Like my kids, you get those yearly passes to whatever, and we didn't use them like at all because I was just so busy all the time. So then the next summer, I was like, okay, I'm going to prepare my customers and I'm going to take the summer off. And that was when I think that was the summer I went on meds. And that
Okay.
was super eye opening and helpful. But
Yeah.
yeah, also it helped me realize what I could handle and what I couldn't. Not that I didn't take on more, because you're always pushing yourself. As an entrepreneur, let's see if I can handle this. You're always testing the limits, or at least I was. And the first time I severely burnt out was that Christmas. Because all three of my kids were in school full time. So I was like, oh, that means I can do more. So then I was like, maybe I'll do 2 bake days a week, which meant I was working from Sunday to Friday. Because especially if you're doing it in a way that works. So then you're like prepping everything, feeding your starter, like all of the stuff, basically all of the time. And it was ridiculous. And so Christmas came around, and that was like the busiest season that I had ever experienced. So after Christmas, I was just like, I cannot do this. This is not working. And I think I took January and half of February off.
Okay.
And it was good. And so then I came back to it and I was like, okay, only 1 bake day a week.
Yeah.
And so that was good. But yeah, everything kind of like it got better. And then the next Christmas was also super busy and I burnt out again. Right. So
Okay.
it was like all these times were just like, but I decided, so last January, so January of 2024, I had plans to go to England. Like at this point, I was not liking baking as much anymore. Like the last time I burnt out, I was like, oh, whatever. Like I'll get back into it. I just need a break. But this time I was like, I'm hating baking. Good. Like I feel like this was an obligation and not a joy. And so a friend of mine who had owned a micro bakery for years and had been baking bread forever, she told me about this course that she did in Bath in England with Richard Burton. And I was like, I think I want to do that. And
Yeah.
so I did. I flew to England by myself. I took the train to Bath. I stayed in an Airbnb by myself and walked to my class every day. And it was the most amazing experience I had ever had in my life. First of all, travel by yourself. It's amazing. At some point, oh my gosh, like not having to make like decisions for anybody else or think about anybody else, like just it was that part alone was amazing. But taking this bread class was eye-opening. So Richard, he is like a baker and a chef, like he's owned restaurants, bakeries, everything. And all of the skills that he has learned and like tips and tricks on like how to bake in general, like just simple things like like the mise en place thing, clear a space, make room for yourself, be
Mm.
organized, have everything prepared ahead in advance. Don't be measuring things on top of other things. That's where you get like 100 grams of salt on top of when you need like 10. Like little, tiny little things like that. And he taught me to write everything down. And so it was
Mm.
really interesting taking this class, knowing I had ADHD and seeing like the process of everything. And I think this is like pretty standard in a lot of places, like in restaurants and stuff. I think everybody has ADHD at this point. I just felt like somebody who had ADHD and was like, and figured it out. And was like, oh, this is what I need to do. And so everything that he taught me, I pretty much now use
Wow.
like on a daily basis for preparing and for just helping like my brain function better. So I write everything down. Now I will sit down either on a Sunday or a Monday and write down everything from I start at the end of the week and I
Mm.
start at the evening to that morning and then I go to the next day, that evening to the morning. And it has helped so much just to be able to take my whole like everything, my whole life, all like my kids' activities, family activities, like all of that, and be able to prioritize so that I can do everything. And so, like before, I couldn't figure out how to fit exercise into my life, how to fit my husband into my life, right? I can actually prioritize the things that are really important and figure out when I need to do those other things.
Yeah.
It has been instrumental into that work life balance.
Wow. I love that. There are so many things in there that I want to go back to. I'm going to start there.
Yes.
I love the idea of reverse engineering your schedule. I talk about that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and I do that like when I'm planning
Oh,
my
nice.
bake weeks. But I love
Yes.
using that for everything, and even like making sure that you've got space for your husband, because that's a really real challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And we work weird hours and we're tired in the evening. And
Mm-hmm.
so you just sit down and you just, I always have a notebook, but you just write like evening to morning for each
Yeah,
day.
pretty much. I'll show you. Basically, I have a clipboard and I end up just taking up like every single piece of
Okay.
paper and just, yeah, and just writing it all down. So even from today, I have everything that I needed to do before this interview. Plug your computer in and make sure it's charged and get ready for the interview. Like all of those things
Mhm.
step by step. And it's, yeah, it helps for so many things. Because so many times before I'd be like, oh crap, I forgot that I need to bring you to this, or I forgot that we were doing this. This week, like I have my kid's birthday party on Sunday. And so I was like, oh, what do we need to do to get ready for that? And I'm like, okay, I need to plan to do all of this. I have time on this day. And so then we need
Mm.
to do the things. We need to do all the things. And yeah, it's weird how much it helps. And it also helps me plan out I have time to do a bake day next week. So that's yeah, I can go back to really help change everything. But right now, this is the system that I have come up with that really works for me.
I love that. I think that's the key. I'm pretty sure probably so many of the listeners to the podcast probably have diagnosed or undiagnosed ADHD. It's just a really
Mm-hmm.
common entrepreneurship trait. And so probably so many people are resonating with what you're saying. But part of the key is really creating those systems that support you. And for me, like
Mm-hmm.
I've tried so many planners and so many like planner apps, and I
Mm-hmm.
just keep coming back to a blank sheet of paper. Nothing
Yes.
supports me quite as well. But
Yeah.
there's systems to support us. We can also eat healthy, exercise, meditate. But also, I'm glad you touched on supporting with meds because I feel, and I actually have this very similar conversation, just this one little part in a episode that's coming out this week. But
Okay.
people who bake sourdough tend to lean a little to the crunchy side, and there tends to be some fear, shame, hesitation around using medication as support. Some of it's legit, and some of it is maybe just we don't really understand the full picture, or I don't know. For me, the clincher was I went to an educational workshop thing about ADHD before I
Oh,
had
nice.
my diagnosis. But I knew my husband for years, he'd been like, you got to get that diagnosis. And then I go into the websites and try to figure out like online ADHD diagnosis. And then my ADHD took over and it couldn't follow through. Anyway, I'm in this season where I finally realized that so the comparison that was drawn at the workshop was our brains just don't produce dopamine the way
Mhm.
someone without ADHD does. And it's like asking someone with type 1 diabetes to just work harder, eat better to produce the
Yeah.
insulin that their body needs. They
That their body
physically can't.
doesn't produce.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They physically cannot. And so when
Yeah.
I made that connection, I was like, you know what? I'm hopping around a lot right now, but I pretty sure my 7-year-old daughter is going to need the same support as she gets older. And I have a good friend who
Mhm.
always says, put your oxygen mask on first. And I realized I need to support myself and I need to educate myself and take care of myself to show up for my family and be ready to support her when and if
Mhm.
she needs that. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. And maybe it's a season for me, but in this season where life is really full, I function so much better with the support of some medication than I did without it. The first day I took it, I was
Mhm.
like, holy cow, there is one thought in my head at a time. Is this how other
Yeah.
people function? It was mind blowing. So I'm glad you brought that up. But then the other theme that I kept hearing as you were sharing was taking breaks were
Mhm.
like the reset points, the points that turn the tide to the like next healthier season in your business. So you went through burnout a couple times, you stepped back and took some breaks. I want to first ask for people who are maybe approaching burnout, did you have any flags or signs that you, in hindsight, maybe could have paid attention to as you're approaching burnout?
Yes. Whether people actually don't ignore them or not is a whole other thing, right? Especially when you're deep in it and you can't see how to change things in the midst of it. But one of the things, like I said, I didn't want to bake. It was that, like when the joy isn't there anymore, that almost means you're too late. It means like you're already burnt out and you need to do something. That's your get a lifeline kind of thing. You're
Mm-hmm.
drowning. Um, uh, Depression, and especially when I'm not on meds, I noticed that was more so then I would sit around and procrastinate, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the time. Like I was just like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to. And it was like all like the little things that were annoying because I hate math and that completely drains me. And so I would put off figuring out the math for my bread, all my recipes and whatever, because I only take pre-orders. And so it changes every week. By the way, I made a spreadsheet and it's amazing. So that
I'm
is
sure
huge.
it took a lot of brain power to get the spreadsheet done,
Oh,
but
it was
paid off.
painful. And I was using numbers, not Microsoft, even worse. But so that, yeah, anyway, yeah. So when you stop like being motivated to do the little things that are going to help you in the end, you know, you need to change something.
Mm,
Yeah. And at the time, and when you start eating crap, really, like when you're eating your feelings, it's not a good sign.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And if your family is now not behaving as well as they normally are, that's also a sign because our moods affect our families so
yeah,
much. And like you said, you to really you need to you need to be who you want your kids to become. And that's like the hardest and but best thing to hear.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I don't
totally.
know. Really, if you are always tired and depressed and
Mm,
it's a very bad sign. Those are my red flags for
yeah,
myself.
you pay attention. Is there anything when you're operating in a healthier space, any like earlier sign that you notice? Like for me, it's doom scrolling on my
Mhm.
phone. If I catch myself doom scrolling, I say, what am I avoiding?
Yeah.
And I know that there's something that I am procrastinating or trying to block out. And that's an early wake up call for me. Is there
Mhm.
something similar for you?
That that is one for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I do the same thing. And but it's funny because when I'm on meds, I get so bored eventually from scrolling that I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I need to do something else. And sometimes I'll have a show on and wear my AirPods and just be walking around the house and like cleaning up because I'm just like, I'm so bored just sitting here. This is so dumb. And then like it motivates me to actually get some stuff.
That's so funny.
But yes, that is one of the things that I struggle with too sometimes when I'm just so overwhelmed. So when I'm like, I need to get my brain on paper and I need to figure
Yeah.
out what's going on and what I
Yeah.
need to do. Yeah.
So you've got the systems, the
Yeah.
reverse engineer plan, and then just paying attention. So it sounds like you have more kind of infrastructure systems in place now to support you. What's something that you have implemented or some way that you now protect your time with your family?
I make sure that I get everything done while my kids are at school.
Okay.
That is the first thing. So I will reverse engineer. Okay, when do I want to be done baking before they get home? Because a lot of times you kind of want a little bit of a break, right? And to get bombarded by questions and all of that, right? And so I try to make sure that I am done. Like my kids get home around like 3:15. So I make sure I'm done by 2:30. And then I go backwards
Mhm.
from there. I'm like, okay, what do I need to kind of figure out how much time everything takes, which I highly recommend. I didn't do it before I had a business coach, and then she made me. She's like, you need to know how
Yeah.
long all of this takes so that you can be successful. So doing that, then I can figure out, okay, either that's too much or I need to do this another time or I need to figure something else out. Yeah, so that's what I end up doing.
Okay. So smart. I love that you build in some buffer time for yourself to
Yeah, and
just take
evenings
a
are
break.
free. That's the other thing. Evenings are free. And usually
Yeah.
my husband and I, we like to watch shows together or just snuggle or whatever, right? And so it's become that free time. And it's so funny because so often, even if I'm doing like maybe a few things while the kids are home after school, while they're having screen time or whatever, my husband's, oh, are you busy tonight? Are you going to be working? And I was like, no, I can stop this at any time, right?
Nice.
And it's such a nice change from whereas before it was like, how long is that going to take? When are you going to be done that? And now it's just no, we can actually like prioritize each other, which is awesome because he has interest in baking. That's the other thing. How many people are doing this completely on their own, and then you see these other bakers who like their spouses are helping them. I'm like, I wish. Like, how nice would that be to have a partner in your
Yeah.
business because it is so
Yeah.
lonely sometimes and it's hard and people don't always understand. So yeah, this way I don't feel as lonely because I'm
I
just
love that.
doing it on my own time instead of on everyone else's time, and then I have time with my family and my
And
husband.
yeah, you're probably almost like on both sides, subconsciously developing some resentment. And now it feels a lot more protected. I love that.
Yes.
Um, so practically, if your workday is going from what is it like 7:30 to 2:30, what does like a dough day look like?
So the nice thing is that like at this point, let me preface this, I took 8 months off. So I have only really started getting back into everything like February. And before that, I had 8 months off. A dough day now looks like I'm still building up my customer base again because that's just the reality of it when you stop for a long period of time. So now, like, I'll still get maybe 10 orders, and that could mean like 15 to 30 loaves of bread, which is a decent amount. That's okay. And that's doable. But for that amount, it doesn't take much. Like I have a big mixer. I can mix up to 12 loaves at a time. So it's not that big a deal. I really only need 3 hours essentially from start to finish for 12 loaves of bread, for instance. And then like tack on another like half an hour to hour, depending on what else you're making. So 4 hours, it's not as long as I thought it was. It's not as
Yeah.
bad. And I figured out my starter and how to make sure that it grows as slowly as I want it to and stays at peak for as long as I need it to. So then if accidents happen or because things always happen, things always come up. Inevitably, it's those days when my kid is, oh, I need stitches. Right? Just like little things like that where I'm like, oh, I didn't want to leave the house, but I guess here we go. So it just makes it a lot more flexible. So sometimes I don't even start my dough day until 10
Okay.
or right. And some days, like tomorrow, I have figured out, I'm like, oh crap, I got to be at the gym for 6. I have no other time this week to do it. And so then I have to start my dough day at 8. And I try to start after the kids go to school. I'm trying to get them ready for school and I'm doing other things. I make mistakes.
Mhm.
Like that is 100% what I'm going to make, all the mistakes, and I'm going to get frustrated and it's not going to be fun because this whole
Mhm.
thing for me is about joy and it's about something for me and it's
Yes,
something I love doing. And so if I'm not enjoying it, then there's no point. Whereas
totally.
I honestly don't understand. Like it's so hard for me to watch other bakers who are really trying to make a living at just the micro bakery part of the baking part. I feel for them. Like honestly, I would never be able to make a living off of this.
Mhm.
And sometimes even the my business coach, she was like, "You don't have to own your bakery. You could just go work for a bakery and make more money." And I was like, and then I really thought about it and I was like, "Yeah, but oh no, I like my business. Like it's my baby."
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want
Yeah.
to get rid of this. And then I'm not at home. Like I'm a homebody. I love being at home. And so the thought of not is just meh.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I had to
Mhm.
make a living, I would not be doing this. This
Okay.
is right. It's not going to
Yeah.
make
No,
what
it
I needed
takes
to because you have
so
to mass produce.
yeah, it
Hmm.
does take so much. It's just a whole different animal. Like I really do work
Right?
pretty much at a full-time capacity and it's a
Yeah,
lot. It's a
it
lot.
is a lot.
I couldn't have my dough day fit into that same schedule, just working at the capacity
Hmm.
that I do, which made me curious. You said you're rebuilding your customer base and to keep it small so that you
Yeah.
can stay at this space, this level that keeps
Yeah.
the joy in it for you.
100%. So on my website, I will only make available what I can handle. Of just like doing as much as people want to order. I know what that cost is for myself and for my family.
That's
So
probably so
yeah,
freeing. So freeing for people to hear. We do see those bread fluencers and people pushing out just crazy amounts of bread. And I always tell people, like, they compare themselves to me. And I say, my kids are in school. I
yeah,
need a full time income. So I'm putting in full time hours. Do not compare. I don't, I still love baking, but I don't love getting up at 3:30 in the morning.
no, thank
So
you.
it's these sacrifices and also these decisions, and I think it's probably so validating and freeing for people to hear from you that, yes, you can absolutely make the rules, and yes, you can absolutely maybe earn a little bit of supplemental income and not build a full-time business baking 150 loaves a week, and you can keep it at the level that you want to. Just I think alongside of that comes realistic expectations of you are not trying to earn a full-time income. And it's so
Yeah,
easy to go in and start comparing and feeling like you're doing it wrong if you're not looking like the people on Instagram. So I love
right.
that you shared that. That is so good. I want to backtrack a little to the workshop that you went to in England
Oh yeah,
with Richard Burnett
yeah. It's French. We'll just butcher it.
with Richard. It sounds like that influenced so much. What, besides kind of the mise en place and scheduling everything and just
Mhm.
really creating that structure, is there anything else that you feel like it's really changed for you in the way that you do your business?
Less is more. Like
Mm,
I only have maybe 4 items on my menu at all times. And I'm talking like I will offer sandwich loaves, but it's the same dough as my classic loaves. Like it's just a different shape. And so then because some people just want that sandwich shape. So that's like one like 2 of my offerings, but it's the same dough. Maybe a different type of bread and one type of cookies. And that's it. And then the cookies, I only offer what I have in my freezer that I pre-made
mm,
whenever I felt like, 'cause I hate making cookies.
Mhm.
It's given me tennis elbow and hurt my tendonitis that I already had from working at Starbucks. And
Yeah, not worth it.
it's not worth it. So then I only make a certain amount at a time, and that's all I have available. So yeah, just streamlining how many things I'm offering is
Mm,
huge,
mhm.
huge. Yeah,
What a contrast from how you started of just trying and offering everything just because you could. Feeling I think we fall into that shiny object syndrome where everything looks so fun and there's always these fun trends to try or new recipes shared. But just
yeah,
because we can do it doesn't mean we have to. I love hearing that from
right.
you.
We don't have to record it
Yes.
unless that's your platform. Sure.
Yeah, totally. So good. If someone's just starting, you have 3 years under your belt and a lot
Yeah.
of ups and downs. Someone who's just starting, what's one mindset shift that you'd encourage them to implement in the very beginning?
Do your research at ground zero and figure out what you need to do to start a business. Market research in general, even take a class on how to own a business and what to do.
Mhm.
I watched a friend of mine who has ADHD go from like, and she's not medicated because she can't handle it, but she had this dream of starting this dance studio. And I got to watch as it turned from like a dream into reality. But she took a class to
Mm.
how to start a business and then did all of her market research and figured out like how much she could afford to have for rent and all of that stuff. So she did all of the groundwork ahead of time. And watching her do it that way, I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have known. I
Mm.
wish I would have, but at the time, you can with the information that you have.
Yeah.
And I barely even wanted to start a business. It's like, why would I take a class? That seems so
Yeah.
dumb, right? Or even like, or if someone starts their bakery and is drowning, take a step back, right? Maybe
Yeah.
take a pause. It's okay to pause. Okay to come back with no customers and have to build it back up again. Like it's not the end of the world. And especially if you really want to make it a full-time thing, I would suggest definitely doing it that way so that you can grow in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
Like I've seen some breadfluencers seem to do it right. Like they knew what to do and where to get supplemental income from. And like they're really smart
Mhm.
making about how to make it a full-time income. I yeah, I only wish I would have known all of that.
That is, I love that. And there's so much more information available now and so many more
Yes.
courses and guidance and resources specifically in the sourdough micro bakery space than there were
Yeah.
3 years ago when you were starting, 2 years ago when I was starting. There's so much available now. And so it's a lot easier for people to start with a course and
Mhm.
or a class and kind of lay that groundwork. You jogged my memory when you said something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I know where I'm heading. So with the full-time income or even just sustainable income, one of the things that is so important, and I've been hearing this from a lot of experts too, is having breadfluencers and multiple streams of income. Multiple streams of income, and especially in baking where it's an economy of scale and there is a very clear limit on how much we can offer, especially as solo people. One of the really wise ways to add in some income is to teach classes, and you've started doing that recently.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about what that looks like and what led to that decision.
I had been thinking about doing it for like over a year. And I just, it was new things are hard, right?
Mm.
Every new thing is hard. So I had helped a friend of mine at her class and kind of learned from her and then taking this class from Richard and all of that. So in my head, I was like collecting info at the same time until it just took a friend pushing me feel like,
Mhm.
okay, let's do this. Cause I told them like, I want to do like a practice class. I need to do a practice class so I can figure out what I need to do and like how to explain everything and whatever. So then I did one And it was awesome. It was with friends. It was fun. And then in the meantime, I had posted my first class because in my town, excuse me, in this town there's 30,000 people. And so it's not very big. But there are a lot of people who are like, I want to learn how to make bread. And like on all the local like Facebook pages, it's all, anybody know anybody teaches, blah, 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 blah. And so I saw them and I would just be like, I'm developing something right now. In the meantime, I'm not doing anything. I was just sitting on my hands and terrified of starting anything new until, yeah, I finally did this practice class and then I posted for a class. And before I knew it, I had a full class, which I say full class, it was not. I originally made like 8 spots in the class. And then I got 5 people. And then I closed it off at 4 actually, because I was like, oh my gosh, 8 might be a little too much. I think that, no, I need to do less to start with. That's the thing with us ADHDers, thinking we can take on the world and then realizing, oh crap, that was too much. And so thankfully I had the time to think about that. And then somebody reached out to me and was like, hey, if anybody cancels, like I would love to do the class. I'm available. I'm like, you know what? We'll squeeze you. 5 people, 5 people. That's okay. And then I did my first class with those 5 people. And one of them was my kid's like old preschool teacher, which was really fun. So it was fun teaching her and so validating. So at the end of the class, she was like, you're a natural teacher. I'm like, yay. Also, just okay, I think I found something that is awesome. And also like it just stems back to like when I was learning and being able to like make bread for my friends and family. That's really where the joy came from. Just this thought of being able to share something like that with people. And so I love that now I can teach other people to do that. And yeah, so the class itself, I'm not going to say that it makes a lot of money because it really doesn't. I decided to take on an employee for my classes because holy cow, it's a lot of work. And I have to rent a kitchen to do it because like I don't have the space in my house. Got my kids, and then I'd have to clean my house really, like all those things. I'm like, it's not gonna work. And so I do it at my church, and the rent is cheap. And so it's affordable at the moment to be able to do it there. But yeah, between paying for my assistant and then the kitchen, at the end of the day, like depending on how much I'm offering during the class and how much ingredients are, I'm not making a whole lot.
Yeah.
You know what? It is more fun than a market. I may make about as much as I would at a market when it comes to like net income. And then it's just that like a little bit of prep before and then day of, and it's only the 4 hour or 6 hours like between setting up and taking down. And so it's good. Like it's exhausting for sure, but it's awesome. I love it. And like everybody has a little bit of what's the word? Or you don't think that you're as good as you are.
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome.
Definitely.
That is huge amongst, I mean, anyone, but obviously in our world, like you hear about it a lot, like imposter syndrome. And it was amazing just being able to figure out, oh, I know more than I thought I did.
Yeah.
But then it's just a matter of trying to figure out how to explain things in a way that people can understand. I've tried to teach my mom, and I still can't figure out how to teach her how to shape dough. Like her dough comes out super sticky and in a mess. And I'm like, okay, if I can explain it in a way where she can do it, then I figured it out.
Yeah. Crack the code. That's so funny.
Anyway, but I'm loving doing that. And I do feel like if I can do more classes, then it would help for everything else. I still
Sounds
need
like
to
it's
pay off my
really,
bread oven.
I feel workshops have so much potential for sure. I've seen that for so many people. And
Yeah.
it sounds like it's energizing on a different level for you. Do you have goals, or do you see it being like a regular recurring thing?
The thing about goals for myself is that I when I make them, I try to achieve them really quickly, which is silly. So right now, I just have a really simple goal of just keep going and keep doing
Okay.
it over. And then eventually add on different things. So I would love to end up doing even just like a class on yeasted breads because not
Mm.
everybody likes sourdough, right? I know several people who are like, meh,
Yeah.
no thanks. And people want to learn how to make just like regular yeasted bread. And so I was like, I could do that. Like I could see myself maybe doing that, or even eventually doing like just a more advanced sourdough where I'm teaching people who already know how to bake, but they want to just get to that next level. That right now is imposter syndrome for me. I'm like, I don't think I'm that good, but maybe I am. I don't know.
You gotta, it just sometimes it's just a matter of just acting like you and being a few steps
Yeah,
ahead.
I know,
I
right?
definitely let imposter syndrome hold me back for a while before I taught my first workshops.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And there's so many like collaborations that could happen in the future. And people reach out to me who have either like Airbnbs where they're like, oh, we have this wood burning stove. It would be so much fun to teach people how to make bread or have that offering of doing that. I'm like, that could be interesting. Or like other people have like smokers that they would want to like wood fired smokers where you could learn how to make bread on a smoker type thing. And so
Wow.
those things terrify me because I'm like, I've never done that. How would that work? How would that
Mm.
come out? But really, the baking part is not the biggest part of the class anyway. But no, there's like different fun, like business opportunities for sure available for like collaborating and whatever. And like schools, right? Like I would love
Yeah,
to be asked to come in and teach kids one day how to make bread. There are things like brewing in my mind.
I love that. That is so exciting. Can't wait to see where you go with it.
Me too.
Okay, awesome. As we wrap up a little bit, I love to, can you in their space ask just a few rapid fire questions? So if
Sure.
you're ready, I'm just going to throw a few random questions at you. They're not totally
Sure.
random, but first one, when you're feeling overwhelmed
Mhm.
or just need to bake something to that you love, what's your go-to bake?
The overwhelmed part would be like just yeasted bread buns or baking soda biscuits. Just something
Mm,
you like for dinner or whatever. Yeah.
that's a good one. I love baking soda biscuits. What is your favorite tool in your bakery that you can't live without?
My bread oven, especially as a micro baker.
Yeah. What about a small tool, like everyday device?
Bench knife. Yes. I got a
Yeah.
Rackmaster one and it's nonstick and I love it.
Amazing. One, let's see. I'm going to skip that question because that feels like a long one. If you could go back and give day one Krista some advice, what would it be?
I would say stop. And you will get to do this,
Mm-hmm.
but figure it out first a little bit. Do some research and have the things that you need in place before you get going,
Such good
right?
advice.
Remember your priorities,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
that is so good. I think that probably is exactly what some people need to hear right now as they,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what season they are in, but sometimes it just gets out of hand and just snowballs more than we planned for. I love that kind of reality check. This has been so good. I have been just energized and love this conversation. And like I said, I think so validating for so many people just to connect with someone that they relate to so well. And then talking about avoiding burnout and finding that balance and protecting your space. So good. For people who want to stay connected with you and see what you're up to
Mm-hmm.
online, where can they find you?
Instagram mostly, and my page is just Burnt Toast Bakery, all one word. Otherwise, you can find me on Facebook. I'm not really a fan of Facebook. So whatever I post on Instagram gets put on there, but it's not really babysat. It's just
Yeah,
there.
same.
So yeah, those are the main places that people can find me.
Okay, perfect. Burnt Toast Bakery, and I'll put that handle down in the show notes if people can find you. I love that name
Thank
too.
you.
And then, as always, for the listeners, if you have resonated, clicked with something Krista said, learned something, have some food for thought, take a screenshot of the show, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a podcast app, and tag Krista, Burnt Toast Bakery, and myself, Caroline Bauer _sourdough. And let's see where we're listening from. And so we can all connect and grow together. Krista, this has been so good. Thank you for sharing. I have loved getting to know you. I had so much fun. And we will connect online. And for those of you who haven't followed the show, make sure you do that so you don't miss an episode. They drop every Monday and Thursday. And I'll be back soon with another one. But until then, happy baking.